E allora si è voltato improvvisamente alla gente che era lì e ha detto: la gente che cosa dice che io sia? Chi dice che io sia? E voi chi dite che io sia? E allora si è voltato improvvisamente alla gente che era lì e ha detto: la gente che cosa dice che io sia? Chi dice che io sia? E voi chi dite che io sia?
La civiltà dell'amore, fratelli e sorelle, costruite senza stancarvi mai questa civiltà. Lavorate per questo, pregate per questo, soffrite per questo.
Good evening, or good afternoon. Thank you for being here. Today, together we'll meet Patrick Gabarrou. Starting with a simple consideration, we're here down at sea level, 0 meters high. Now we're going to go up in the high mountains. We'll climb up together in the mountains with him. But why at Rimini do we talk of mountains? In the history of the meeting, there were 2 exhibitions. One on K2, the famous expedition with Michele Cucchi to K2, which was one of the exhibitions in COVID time. And last year, the company of the peaks, which talked about the experience of friendship lived in the high mountains. Today we'll meet Patrice. I won't say much about him, but the things will come out successively from his experience. First of all, Patrick, when did you discover the high mountains? I was a kid, sort of half countryside, half Paris. I didn't know anything about the mountains. When I was 14 years old and in high school, I went into the library of the big ones where my French teacher had put 2 books from the Guide of Marseille and Chamonix. One about Mont Blanc and one about the Matterhorn, the Cervino, the exemplary pyramid. I spent a year between one book and the other to looking at the pictures of this world that I couldn't imagine. And I had the dream to discover them, but from below. And then, Patrick, you started to go into the mountains. What were your first experiences in the mountains? Having discovered these books, I asked to my dad who was the head of a school in the north of France. I wasn't there with him, but to not go to Bordeaux in a little island in the sea, but for school holidays, but to go somewhere in a group in the mountains to discover this world. And then in your history, there was a time at which you did your university period. You went to the Sorbonne, you did this university journey, and then afterwards you became an alpine guide. So what is an alpine mountain guide? What does it mean to accompany people in the high mountains? When I finished my studies at the Normal, in the high school, I didn't know really what to do. So I wanted to be a teacher of gymnastics, but I was too young for the competition to become a teacher. So I spent an extra year in school, and I did various things, including helping the teacher, the gymnastics teacher, and then I realized that actually that wasn't my vocation, because you had to already get kids to take their hands out of their pockets, and we didn't really know anything. I realized we didn't know anything at that time about how to go and live in the mountains, meaning not high up in the Alps necessarily, but just finally I decided what's really interested me in my studies. In French, the psychology, which I confused a bit with philosophy, and then I started to study philosophy because it interested me a bit. And then I thought always to go one day and live in the mountains, but for any mountains, not just for the Alps, because it's a world of relief, of mystery, of beauty, of something different from my countryside that was flat. And then finally, year by year, I became more impassioned. Not by the most intellectual things, because I wasn't particularly gifted intellectually, but I had the sense of transmission, and so bit by bit I wanted to become a teacher in the final class of high school, to allow young people to think really about the sense and meaning of life. But finally, the passion for the mountains hit me so much so that I came into the mountains. I went up to the mountains. It was a difficult choice for me because I was in the Paris region, which wasn't in my dreams, but I thought a bit that mainly, at least at the beginning of my task, my job of philosophy teacher, I was in the right place to meet young people. But in that moment, I hadn't found the love of my heart. So a woman who'd helped me follow perhaps this vocation. And at the time, I went up to the mountains because I felt that maybe there was something really, my way was there. So then I left, having done a little bit of mountains, then came out to the mountain guides exam, and a bit by chance, not so much by traditional vocation, but because there was this opportunity that interested me. So my friends said, "You're gifted. You're talented. You should go and try being a mountain guide." So, in that moment, we tried to become alpine guides, to have the free use of the ski lifts and so on, because otherwise it's impossible up at Chamonix. So then I was taken by the passion for this job, this work, and now I'm the guide of a bit more than. I've been doing it for 50 years or so, a little bit more. And I thank, above all, every day. I give thanks every day, because what I do, everything you do is a gift from heaven, first of all. Already having health, the chance to meet books, people, everything that in the end lets you become a mountain guide. So I had this fortune of being able to look in the eyes of a youngster who, for example, one of the mountains that I have in my heart is the Grand Pilier, which I know a bit from all sides, but I love it so much to go back there on that particular mountain, to embrace the virgin of the peak and the beauty of this task of being a mountain guide. And that every time, even if you stay on the same old path, you are with new companions that maybe will become your friends. And so your gaze is, how could I say it, it opens with the eyes of the other people. And each time it's a bit different. You have it's an incredible pleasure to discover these things that's not your world, but that's given to you for a moment, perhaps a long one in your life. And for me, to be a guide, an alpine guide, deep down, is a gift from heaven. But really, because you go there, it's something difficult, it's hard, but there's many things, but there are so many moments of beauty, of eternity, that you have the fortune to share with other people. Even if there are some moments, there are some people who aren't that keen on it, but there's so many people who every year discover with you or live with you this world. And so year by year I give thanks to the heavens that let me look at with these wide open eyes of the child, or with those eyes, because it's a gift. Can you specify a bit more? One of the things that struck me more in you is that gaze, this pure childlike look that looks at reality, that wonders, that's moved. Can you tell us a bit? Oh, sorry. So this way that you have of looking at reality, the ways on the ways you've done many times, peaks you've been up many times, like Grand Pilier, but that always makes you wonder about what's there. In this world, it's not very difficult, because I've studied in Paris, and you see the environment there. You dream about snow, like you think, like a merciful cover of white above the grey city. And when you are already in the countryside, in nature, but above all, more so, in the mountains, it's not difficult to open your eyes. But there are also grey days in your life, in the environment, evidently. We're all up and down on the roller coaster of life. But many, many times, wow, how beautiful, how beautiful. In Valle d'Aosta, there's a place I like, among many, at the beginning of the Valley of Cogna, just above Aosta, when you're coming from the city of Milan and so on, just above the plains, where you start to enter into the valley, And on your left, there's a road that goes up towards. You've got Grand Pilier behind you. So anyway, you go on this street, this road that takes up to a village that's called Ozain. Ozain. And from there you can see the Mont Blanc, like a cathedral of light with all the columns, all its pillars, everything. And what does this mean in the valley to Ozain? What does that mean in Ozain? Ozain. It's like that. The name of the village is oh wow, basically. So everywhere you have this view. Oh wow, how beauty that is inside me. Ozain, you say. It could be all life. You could be like that. You eat one day. So there are grey days in life and times, but some morning you say, "Wow, look at Mont Blanc, Ozain," and there we are. That's the secret.
Mi permetto di citarti a un incontro cui.
Allow me to quote you. One time I happened to be lucky enough to hear you at Pirat, and you said, "We are beings who lack the absolute. We're missing the absolute. We're made for the absolute. Space, the environment that's given us in the mountains, is in itself the beautiful thing, and sharing everything, even your food. And being men who go in the mountain and dream about the absolute. I go up for my first peak, and then another, and then a great peak that I'm dreaming of up there, up and up towards the absolute, which fills you." Can you deepen this beautiful concept? What does it mean, this searching for the absolute, for you? So I won't speak too intellectually. I think that this need for the absolute, this void that's in you that you don't know how to fill it up, that it's not the mountain that gives you that in the absolute. It's a human searching. It could be in this city, in the countryside, and you feel that in your life, which maybe is sad, maybe it's happy, there's something without which, for which you're made, even in the darkness, perhaps of the moment, or sometimes in the light, that you're a being that needs something great, something grand, that one time you will find in a human being, in a woman or something. And I'd say that the mountain, in there's something that's given to you, but that the mountain would be a place that would be a screen of your seeking, that before going the mountain could be, wow, how beautiful, okay, but your essential searching, for me, comes much before the mountain. It's in the depth of your life. It could be a poor person and on the pavement, something in you, because you're made for absolute. I'm speaking after a bit of explanation, as you could say, as Christian. You're made for the absolute, but maybe you don't know it, that you guess it, or you don't know it. You think that maybe this life finishes and the whole that's death, and that's the end. our world generally. But it's true that in the mountain, there can be certain moments you can be in contact with a beauty that's superior, maybe just for 5 seconds. A ray of sun after bad weather, or something that goes, wow, Osehin. And it says something to you of a beauty beyond the beauty of the world that maybe corresponds to your deepest dream. But maybe that's me speaking. I speak as a person. It could be as a man. I say that. Look at a woman for a moment. How the ray of something that you're searching that you don't know what it is. And in the mountains, it's evidently you could find a ray of this light, but you could also not find it sometimes, because it needs to come with a certain way, with a void in you, the need for finding something that you don't know what it is, and that maybe that this beauty in the world up there gives you the starting of an answer, but maybe it's just the start of an answer. And I think that you need to be already questioned before you're going up in the mountain. You need to be full of questions. But this world, it will say to you, maybe in some moments, if you're able to have your eyes open, like a child, then you can say, look at this beauty. This beauty, where does it come from? What's it the sign of? So I'm up on a peak, and maybe just for a moment, like if it feels like a moment of eternity, but then time takes you up by your back and goes behind you. You need to go back down in the valley. But you've lived a moment of eternity. But maybe this moment is the sign of another space that isn't just a moment. And it's this thing that the mountain gives you, and it gives you also very often the desire to come back again, because this beauty calls to you. And not only the space of the mountain, that it's rocks and snow and villages and whatever, but through this world of altitude, even in the mid-level mountains, there's a moment that you're given the possibility to open your eyes. We saw the exhibition of this painter, Congdon, and I saw this very nice phrase: the invisible, you see it even through things. We'd say very often, it's in your heart. No. You can see it in certain moments. You open your eyes. You ask for the fortune to know how to open your eyes, to let everything, all things, the difficulty of the climb, the competition time, and leave all that and find yourself with the gaze of the child in front of the world. And maybe there, the light switches on in you a little bit. I recall having learnt it from Father Luigi, a priest who'd climbed the Matterhorn 30-something times, including with Luigi Nucaro. And he said it can often happen that you see things in the mountain that only you see. I remember on one little mountain that my partner Angela was with me, Fred, and I'd did a little shift compared to his road, and in a fracture of the rock there was a bit of earth, and there was a flower. And that struck me, this thing, the wonder that you said, because there I said, look, I'm the only one who's had the chance to see this thing here. How beautiful! What a miracle that the reality exists. You said surprising things surprising you, and so when you go in the mountain, that you do this. But this surprise doesn't finish there. It never finishes, right? This summer, as you know, the weather was horrible in May, also in June, and so the nature was exhausted. And then, at the start of the warmth and the light, the flowers came out, and this year in an incredible way. And it's so much that it's true that at the beginning of August, you can see some pictures later. We did a particular way, but we climbed to the refuge that's the most sort of like an eagle's nest of the Mont Blanc. It's on the hidden west side of Mont Blanc, and so it's pretty hard work to get up there. Rocks and grey ice and shocking, but the views you'll see in some of the pictures, the flowers that we saw. You're up there with a heavy rucksack, thinking of the way you're going to have to go, how difficult it'll be, and so, and then the flowers everywhere, all colours, and you have the impression that it's the first time in your life that you've seen a flower. Or it's like when you see one of these mountain goats that leaps around. It's like it's the first time. You've seen them many times, but it's so stupendous that you have the impression that it's the first time you've seen one of them, that you see this creature, these jumps, this beauty of the flowers, and so it's like a renewal when you're Christian that makes you think that in eternity you could never get tired because it's always new every time. We can go up to the second part of the photo, so we'll talk a bit about the alpine ways, the mountaineering ways. So you like going in new places, and you've done more than 300 new routes in the Alps, and not only. But speak about this most recent route that you've opened with two friends on the Pic Medeo, which is aside the Mont Blanc. We've got the photos there, huh? Okay. It's a bit difficult to respond already because Italian is not my real language, but when I was young, I discovered, I could say I was a countryside lad. I discovered these mountains through books. I didn't dream for anything that I could go onto the peaks because I couldn't see how that could happen, but I wanted to discover this world of the relief, of the mystery, of the beauty, of being maybe shepherds or woodsmen or something. I don't know, do something, but in the world of the mountains. That was the important thing. And I, with my schoolmates and so on, I had a passion for to go in the woods, to make to go off piste, if you like, leave the wood, leave the paths, and go and discover with a curiosity. And this is in my nature, really. And then when I arrived up in the mountains, I discovered about climbing, mountaineering, and so my friends also discovered this world. I transferred this sense of going off-piste, going off the path into the mountains. And so had the desire and the imagination of going some places, new places. And so finally, with all these companions, friends, I went maybe as a guide many times up on the same peak, but also I had the fortune, first of all, the gift, and then gift from the heavens, and also the strength, the will to respond to these proposals of the walls, mountain walls you see there, because you're sitting on a book here, you can see it on a book, but it's difficult. But the cold, the effort, that they're real things. It's a reality of the mountain terrain. So you discover that maybe you're made for this world, or not. You're not made for it. For example, thinking just of the mountains, there are people very strong, very good in climbing school, but when they arrive at the base of the cliff wall of the mountain, they realize that they don't have the vital strength to go up, because it's a different world. And that's the first time I went in a falaise, I was dying with fear, because it was very emotional. I was sensitive. I was on there 20 meters up, almost scared. But I continued, because I had within me the will, the desire to go up there, to not renounce this thing. And so I realized that in me there was a strength that I didn't know, that people discover only, not in your dreams, not in readings, but only on the ground, which could be war, concentration camps, prison, or things that are more lighter, that have in their spirit, in their soul, a strength, a force that they can discover only on the terrain, on the ground. It makes me laugh or smile, because my daughter, who's called Heidi, was a little girl when she was 12 years old, and then I brought her up in the mountains very often in the good weather. And then bit by bit, we met came across thunderstorms, and maybe just one time in 50, but then you're surprised by the bad weather. And I saw her but I felt that she fortunately had in herself the same strength as me, that the same force that you only realize in that situation. And she, even if she was cold, and she had this will, this desire that lets you survive in all situations in life. Even the experience of mountaineering is that. Not only mountaineering, but many things that you can overcome yourself in an unimaginable way when you're in those, than you could imagine in normal situations. So speaking about the Alpine guide, evidently is the one who generally goes first, but that also lets the people to open their wings to go for themselves in the mountain. And this thing is very important to understand, that in human activity there's intelligence, intellectual, there's physical strength, but there's also perhaps even more that very often, it's very often we ignore it. To feel yourself respected and even loved, and pushed to give the best of yourself. And so many times up in the mountains, I found myself as a guide, even with my weakness, but as the person who has to be strong to help the other people to find in themselves the strength that they didn't imagine that they had. Many times we managed to go up to the peak while it seemed like it wouldn't be possible. But you learn that being helped by empathy, or even by friendship better, by the guide, by your companions, you can find in yourself some resources that you couldn't imagine you had. Maybe this is one of the best things of mountaineering. The name that you gave to many of your routes are very significant. So it's now 40 years of the Providence line, one of these great ways up on that mountain near Mont Blanc. The most recent route you opened, you called it Maria Gate to Heaven. Or why? If I think about that great chainway that's called Patrick Gabarrou, pray for us, pray for them, up on the Matterhorn. So why? Yeah, there are all kinds of names, even strange ones. So if you think of Giampiero Motti, who gave strange names, but why did you give them these particular names? It's always a bit difficult speaking in Italian. I'll try, but when I arrived in the Alps, I started to do alpinism, to do mountaineering. I had read a bit, like many French readers that time, a book was a bit iconic of Lionel Terray, who was a great climber from the 1950s and 60s, that was called The Conqueror of the Useless. And in this book, it was written back in the 60s that in the Alps, once again, there's nothing for climbers who are lacking recognition. So when I went there, up in the Alps, I thought that everything had already been done. But my passion was to discovering this world, to repeat the paths. And then I realized on the ground that, also because the techniques of climbing on rocks and on ice have changed, above all thanks to the equipment we've got, but also a new mentality, that there was a whole world that finally we could discover. And we had the chance, the fortune, to be in the years of a little bit of a new golden age of alpine climbing on ice mixed rock. And I discovered, so we'd opened, for example, with a great friend who's still alive and still friendly 50 years later, a line of ice, a goulotte, that became very famous, which is called the Albinoni Gabarrou way. But when you open numerous ways, you don't always go to give your own name to them. Okay, It's not you who gives the name, but 1 year later, me and another guy opened a way that's famous, beautiful, that's called the Super Cool Corridor. And so, like many other ways, the hyper corridor of Blois. And so, in some moments, above all, only some moments, because we gave some very imaginative names from fantasy or funny names, joke names, whatever. So you won't understand that one. Alice in the land of cheese. Oh, the Roberchon cheese. Alice in the land of Roberchon cheese, for example. But sometimes my first 4,000-meter route that I did by chance was the first time that I went really seriously in the mountains, in the valleys, in the kingdom of the 4,000. The king in 4,000 meter is of course the Matterhorn. Weisson is the king of this. Dame Blanche is the queen of this. Dame Blanche had the luck that she came when I was 18 years old. My first 4,000 meter. 20 years, I didn't realize I was with Pierre Rogat. We open the most direct way on the north wall, and it's like 20 years through all the events of life, all the good things, all the joys, all the sadnesses, all the breakups, sentimental and other, everything. 20 years later, we had the luck to open this way. And then we call it, thank God, Deo Gracias. We call it Deo Gracias. To testify to certain moments, not to say, oh, hey, I'm always Christian, la la la, but certain moments. What is the thing that it lives most deeply in me? Not just opening up new ways, becoming famous and mountaineers and whatever. And in Rimini, nobody knows you, and that's a nice thing. Nobody knows you here. You go on the beach, and okay, it's fine. And so you know that in certain moments, you know that you've had this fortune, this luck to open ways, to live moments that were fabulous in this world which you couldn't imagine when you were a young kid in the fields and so on. And that you, at certain times, you don't choose it, but they are choices a bit made for you. You need to testify to this. You need to say, thanks, God. I'll go quick, but 52 years ago, my first season in the mountains, I was 21 years old in Mont Blanc with some friends from the city of Montpellier, which was the first time for me, for 5 of us, the first time in our life on Mont Blanc, on the Brenner Pass. And then we followed all a history for me for 52 years of doing this. That 40 years ago I went on the famous Divine Providence Road. Why Divine Providence? Because on the second day, all our nails, all our hooks, all our safety equipment went off, and then I was down for a second, and there's only one point was still fixed up. Otherwise, we had 600 meters. We'd be 600 meters further down that we'd fallen. So that evening, with François Massigny, who totally non-believer, etc., I said to him, we spoke a lot, and why this way is called Divine Providence, I said, thinking 40 years ago that perhaps we were saved so that we would have, because we had many pages yet to write in our life, for Francois and for me. And, okay, the story of life goes on with all the ups and downs. 40 years after it, it was finally given to me, a new path with two companions, fabulous companions, 26 years old and 31 years old. And then the old guy, the old 63-year-old, was given to me to close this story on Mont Blanc for a final new way, which is called, in French, because we're in Valdost, Marie Porte du Ciel, Mary Gate of Heaven. 6 or 7 years after the world, excuse me, the way that it's becoming famous on Cervino, Father Padre Pio climbed up to heaven. So bit by bit you must testify the absolute that fortunately was given to you, and that fills up the void, the fundamental void in your soul, in your spirit, because you're made for the absolute, the essential. And as we said, as we heard this morning at Mass, that life is eternal. So we'd go, Peter said, to whom would we go if not to you, because you have the words of eternal life. And so you must testify. And in this last route, I knew, getting close to the peak, to the summit at the end of the afternoon, we were alone on Mont Blanc, that it was for me the last time that I would go up on the peak of Mont Blanc, which was the right moment to turn the page of Mont Blanc. I'll never go up there again. I'll look at it, giving thanks, and knowing that this peak is the sign of the true summit, the true peak. And the same thing on the Matterhorn. I've turned the page on that one. After Padre Pio, the ladder to heaven, and the story. This is the story that's given to you, and you need to follow what heaven says to you in certain moments of your life, and to leaving this trace, this track of testimony of divine providence. Thanks be to God, Father Pio, ladder to heaven, and Mary Port, gate of heaven, hoping that she will open the gate to you, open the door. The experience of being companions on a roped-up group is beautiful. To your companion, you tie yourself, you entrust your life to them. He entrusts his life to you. It's a bit like a foundational relationship for your life. You always say that the companions on your rope team, it's as if they become brothers to you. Can you explain this concept to us? It depends. Depends on the companions you've got. Because this summer, I said it to one lady who, for 3 months, so she was saying when, because I'd said, I'm not going up on Mont Blanc. No, I'm done. Okay. It's too much, etc. But yeah, oh, come on. Okay, for you, I love you. Yeah, for 3 months, we could, twice a week she was going, she was giving all the info. Okay. Finally we go with her and a friend to climb to Grand Paradiso to do acclimatization and so on, and then the friend was ill, had knee troubles on the way down, and she said, finally, I no longer want to go on Mont Blanc. So I said, when we left each other, I said, maybe I questioned you a bit. And I said, no, it's more than 50 years that I'm an alpine guide. I've lived everything. I've seen it all. From amazing people who became friends, who gave me so much, people who paid me, who gave everything. From the worst to the greats. So I'm not surprised by anything in this from this point of view. To say that the companions on your rope team, you can say everything about them. In life, there are links, but there are bonds of brothers and sisters who are in all ways for your life within you, even your parents. So even if you are finally separate from them or far away from them or for a long time, then the bonds of friendship, which can be fabulous finally for life, or only maybe for a moment in life, that they help you, that they share with you. The bond of the cord is something absolutely unique. You're not the taxi driver that goes and then you guide and they follow. You are someone who, at one moment, because it's your job, goes tied to, for the life and the death, the possible death, with the bonds, not long in time, but radical, the radical bond of the cord. It's something stupendous. There's no other job like this. When you're a teacher, you can have, but you're not in the danger of your death normally. When you're a guide, every year, there are 1, 2, 3 times within which, as we say in French, that we played the joker. We were lucky, but you can't always know exactly what's going to happen. And so this link, this bond of the cord, is something that's absolutely radical, that could be for life and physical death, but also, in certain moments, spiritual. And so you can say, she is my sister on the rope team, he is my brother on the rope team. And I recall from many other things, my immense friend that we've climbed together for 13 years together, Alex Hilon, with whom, for example, we opened the super direct way on Post-Chose on Mont Blanc, but above all, a friend for life and death, and also after death, because we're in the communion of the saints with Alexis. But so effectively, the rope is the physical bond, but it's also the symbol of this incredible bond which the mountain permits you to live. Companions, brothers on the rope team.
Siamo verso la fine.
We're near the end. It's been interesting, the message that Cardinal Parolin, in the name of the Pope, gave to the meeting. If we're not at the research of the essential, what are we seeking for? The example that he gives is like the mountaineers who prepare themselves to climb the wall, and they get close to the cliff wall, and there They leave the things that aren't necessary for the climb. But what remains is what's essential. What does this title say to you that struck you? And it's also the motive for which you decided to come to the meeting. If we're not after the essence, the essential, then what do we seek? What are we after? My answer already is it's better to have thought to have left the things. You've been better off leaving your things back in the car than at the foot of the mountain. That's what I'd say. And then, effectively, what are we seeking for in the mountain, particularly now, but also 40 years ago? There's a lot of the spirit of competition. Many people who arrive at the refuge, they don't take even 10 seconds time to look around, but they look at their watch, looking at how quickly they went. It took me 2 minutes longer than last year. What a drama. Ah, there's a mountain, yeah, whatever. But oh, it's so sad. So sad. It's true that but I'm not opposed to the competition. I've done some skiing competitions. I was champion of France, whatever. But I like competition. But it's a way to get energy, life, and so on. That's fine. But it's only part of it, of the experience, only part of the total experience, and it's not the most important one. You can do it beautifully. You need to go deep down of your possibilities, physical, psychological. But the world of the mountain is so much greater than that, like the world of the stars. And so, really, why do you rushing? Why go just new ways? Because you are profoundly knowing or not knowing it, not aware of it. You're at the search. You're seeking for something which can fill up the void in you. Because I speak as a Christian, it's God who puts it there. It's this void in you to say to you, you're made for the essential. This morning, Peter who said, it's you who has the words of eternal life. And so the mountain is a nice journey, a nice path in life, but in order to go towards this reality, maybe. Or another way, but speaking of alpinism, of climbing, I often say to young people, go right to the depths of your dreams, of your possibles. It's very important to not find yourself 40 years saying, oh, I wish I'd done that, I wanted to do this, but I couldn't, my parents stopped me, and la la la. You need to try to realize your dreams. Maybe at a moment in your life that is competition, exams, whatever, the mountains, maybe these things need to be a center of your life for a bit. But you need to recall that one day it will be time to turn the page, because the absolute is beyond all these things, and it's up there, in the words of Christ. Last flash question. Quick fire. So one of the first times that, Patrick, you told me that coming down in the central middle part of Italy, what struck you this morning, which is quite a particular experience, because we had to find you, and you were delayed by some problems, etc. But what hit you? What struck you in this half day that you've spent at the meeting? What was the thing that surprised you most? So, evidently, the many things of the encounters, the meetings, and so on. I'll just say one thing that had already struck me, but in the depths of my spirit a few years ago, when the film came out that was called The Hidden Life. Everybody who hasn't seen this exhibition need to rush there to go and see it, because today's the last day, that of Franz and Franziska. Because this story, how could you say it? In brief, it's the question of life. The choice, the family, safety, love, 3 children, etc. But the call of your deep spirit. You can't betray that which you feel as I feel to be the call of God in your spirit, in your soul, beyond this life, and even your family, beyond your family and everything. There's a moment where you need to make the choice, and the choice is that of eternity. And Franz, the combat that he wins, perhaps, over many things, but also in the prayer, but also because his wife says, "You're in the right way, even if I'll lose you, and I must remain in this life, this earthly life, with my 3 children, and without you." It's the essential question, and this struck me. I asked to have the French version to make it be known in France. After this fabulous film, The Hidden Life. I'll finish this meeting saying a wish for myself above all, but also to all of you, that the good Lord will give us the stupefied gaze of a children that He has given to Patrick, because it's always good to see someone who's wonderstruck by life. Thank you all, and thank you, and have a good end of the meeting.
E grazie.
And thank you for your company.
Civiltà dell'amore, fratelli e sorelle, costruite senza stancarvi mai questa civiltà. Lavorate per questo, pregate per questo, soffrite per questo.
Si è voltato improvvisamente alla gente che era lì e ha detto: la gente che cosa dice che io sia? Chi dice che io sia? E voi chi dite che io sia? E allora si è voltato improvvisamente alla gente che era lì e ha detto: la gente che cosa dice che io sia? chi dice che io sia? E voi chi dite che io sia?